If looks could kill, a brave woman stares down the hulking monster who kept her captive in a shipping container for 65 terrifying days. It happened in a courtroom where 32-year-old Kayla Brown came face to face with convicted serial killer Todd Kohlhepp for the first time since his capture.
Todd Kohlhepp seemed to have it all before anyone realized he was a serial killer. He possessed almost 100 acres of land in South Carolina, owned a real estate company, and learned to fly planes. By blending into society and appearing successful, Todd Kohlhepp masked his true identity. His intelligence and charm enabled him to appear as a normal, successful person, while also plotting and committing his heinous crimes. Welcome to the Crimeful Corner. I'm Eli, and in today's video, we're uncovering the disturbing case of Todd Kohlhepp, a seemingly successful man hiding a dark secret: his life as a ruthless serial killer. Todd Kohlhepp was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on March 7, 1971. When he was a child, his parents divorced, and his stepfather adopted him and gave him his last name. As a child, Todd found it difficult to establish relationships with other children his age. Instead of playing friendly, Todd liked to compete and provoke others to get the best out of him. He was known to participate in animal cruelty, and once poured bleach into a dog's bowl and shot a dog with a pellet gun. Typical of young serial killers, Todd Kohlhepp enjoyed causing living things pain. When Todd was 12 years old, he decided to move to Arizona with his birth father. While Todd didn't know his father well, his mother hoped that a change in scenery would benefit Todd, who had a habit of getting into trouble. However, Todd's behavior did not improve after the move, and it may have worsened because in November 1985, Todd kidnapped and sexually assaulted his neighbor. According to the police reports, Todd carried a firearm, duct taped the 14-year-old girl, and sexually assaulted her. He then threatened to murder the neighbor and her family if she told anyone what he had done. The girl's brother, concerned when he couldn't find his sister, had already called 911. So when Todd's neighbor arrived home, the officer discovered her in a state of despair. Todd was arrested after she told them everything that happened. During his arrest, Todd showed no remorse for his crime, nor did he ask how his neighbor was doing. Instead, Todd asked what the officers thought his prison sentence would be. He only showed concern for himself. His selfishness and lack of empathy disgusted the officers, and he was immediately charged with kidnapping and assault and taken away in handcuffs. In October of 1987, Todd Kohlhepp was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He was released in 2001 when he was 30 years old. Upon his release from prison, Todd moved to South Carolina to live with his mother and work hard to rebuild his life. Though Todd was a registered sex offender, he obtained a real estate license in 2006. When Todd was confronted by the licensing board about his sex offender status, he allegedly downplayed the assault and claimed his ex-girlfriend was angry. And guess what? They believed him. Todd opened his real estate business after receiving his real estate license and lived a life of a well-respected model citizen. In 2015, he purchased 95 acres of land in South Carolina, and coincidentally, a young couple disappeared the same year. On December 22, 2015, 29-year-old Johnny Coxey and his 25-year-old wife Megan were reported missing. In the past, the couple had struggled. They lost custody of their son to child protection services, they were addicted to drugs, and they were prone to negative influences. A predator, Todd Kohlhepp, probably sensed how vulnerable the couple was, so he offered them work on his property. Upon arrival at Todd's home on December 19th, Todd shot Johnny dead as soon as they stepped out of the car. After Megan was bound and placed inside a container, Todd brutally assaulted her. Megan fought hard to escape and began creating a fire in hopes of getting out. But instead of alerting help, Todd saw the smoke. He walked up to the container and shot Megan in the head. Afterward, Todd buried Megan's body on his property near where he had already buried her husband. Todd continued living his normal life as a well-respected real estate agent, while investigators looked for leads in the disappearance of Johnny and Megan. 1 year later, Charlie Carver and Kayla Brown disappeared. Charlie's father reported him missing on September 4th, 2014. He said his son was a good-hearted person, the type of man who would help anyone. Todd, a friend of Kayla's whom they had connected through Facebook, contacted her in late August asking if she needed work. At the time, no one knew where Charlie and Kayla were, and the days turned into weeks, and soon the couple had been missing for months.
The two live in this apartment building but haven't been seen for 9 days. Family and friends are hoping these flyers will help.
9 days, no answers. Kayla Brown and Charlie David Carver haven't been seen since Tuesday, leaving two mothers with nothing but worry.
This is just so out of character of him. So if anybody knows anything, please call and leave a tip. I'm begging you, please.
Using cell phone tracking, however, police discovered that Kayla's phone was pinging near the land of Todd Kohlhepp. The investigators discovered Kayla Brown chained inside a container on the property. When they arrived at Todd Kohlhepp's house to clear his yard on August 31st, 2016, she told them Todd Kohlhepp had shot and killed Charlie Carver, then he chained her in the container. At Todd's home, investigators told him Kayla was locked in the container, but Todd denied knowing what they were talking about and claimed he hadn't shot anyone. Todd Kohlhepp was arrested and taken to the police department for questioning.
Watch out, y'all move. I got it, watch out.
Joey.
Sheriff's officer.
Sheriff's officer.
What?
Grab that.
Back up there. Just one. Are you okay?
Grab what? Go.
Do you have any weapons? Coming through, okay? What's your name? What's your name, man?
Lauren.
Gotcha. All right. Just a girl. Just a girl. Just a girl. How are you, honey? This is bolt cutters. This is our investigator. He's a paramedic. Oh yeah. Okay, we're gonna get you out of there. Okay. Just hang loose for me. Anybody got? I need a handcuff key. Handcuff key.
In her interview with the investigators, Kayla Brown described how Todd Kohlhepp held her captive and sexually assaulted her twice a day for 65 days. Kayla said Todd Kohlhepp sometimes referred to her as his possession and said she was there for him to do whatever he wanted. According to Kayla Brown, Todd Kohlhepp claimed to have sold people to other countries and killed people as a government paramilitary contractor. Kayla Brown believes that Todd Kohlhepp was trying to intimidate her with these claims, which he likely made up in order to manipulate her into staying with him. He probably used these false claims to control and keep her in fear. After discovering Kayla, investigators scoured Todd's property and found the bodies of Charlie Carver, Johnny Coxey, and Megan Coxey. During Todd's interview after his arrest, he shocked investigators by confessing to one of the most infamous unsolved cold cases in South Carolina, the Superbike motorsports murders. He provided detailed information about the planning of the crime, which had never been released to the public. Investigators were surprised that he had intimate knowledge of the crime, leading them to believe that he was indeed responsible for the murders. On November 6, 2003, Todd Kohlhepp walked into the Superbike motorsports store in order to enact revenge against a perceived slight. Todd believed the owner and his employees made fun of him and laughed at his expense, something he didn't take lightly. Scott Ponder owned the shop. They had just recently married when his wife learned she was pregnant. Beverly Guy was Scott's mother who helped her son in his store. She was a supporter of his passion and a part of his thriving business, so she enjoyed helping him out. Scott Ponder was a gentle person who treated his employees and customers like royalty, making his business successful. Thanks to Scott's warm and caring attitude towards everyone, the store became well known in the area because of its excellent customer service. Customers would come from all over to shop at Superbike Motorsports, and his employees would always go the extra mile to ensure they had a pleasant shopping experience. On November 6, 2003, Scott Ponder went to work as usual. Around 3 p.m., his wife received a phone call from a friend stating that a shooting had taken place at his bike shop. Scott's wife rushed to the scene, but an officer stopped her and escorted her home. An investigator returned to Scott's home a short time later and informed his pregnant wife that Scott had been shot. She was distraught and said they needed to contact her mother-in-law, Beverly Guy. The investigators told Scott's widow that her mother-in-law was also shot and killed. Furthermore, 2 employees, Brian Lucas and Christopher Sherbert, were killed. Although the motive for the crime remained a mystery, so did the shooter's identity. There was no evidence of missing or stolen items, so robbery was ruled out. This crime was a cold-blooded murder. It was later discovered that Todd Kohlhepp had previously been in the store after he confessed to the crime. In his confession, Todd told the investigator that he cleared the building in 30 seconds and that the investigators would have been proud. All Todd Kohlhepp saw was a competition, and in his mind, he won it. Todd was cocky and confident, oblivious that the lives of 4 families had been destroyed. He was looking for validation and wanted the infamy that came with mass murder. It offered him a sense of power and control over his life. Media dubbed Tom Kohlhepp the Amazon review killer. Using his Amazon account under Me, Todd Kohlhepp created an Amazon wish list for bizarre products such as chainsaws. He wrote, "Works excellent. Getting the neighbor to stand still while you chase him with it is hard enough without having an easy-to-use chainsaw." Todd Kohlhepp reviewed knives, padlocks, gun accessories, targets, books about emergency surgery, and small shovels on Amazon. The review for the shovel read, "Keeping car for when you have to hide the bodies and you left the full-size shovel at home." Todd Kohlhepp was charged with 7 counts of murder and Kayla's kidnapping. To avoid the death penalty, he took a plea deal. On May 26th of 2017, Todd received 7 life sentences, 1 for each of his victims and an additional 60 years for kidnapping Kayla. The victims' families accepted the plea deal because it ensured Todd would never be released. It avoided the possibility of a long and drawn-out trial with the risk of an acquittal or a reduced sentence. In a civil hearing 2 years later, the victims of Todd Kohlhepp's senseless crimes were given the opportunity to speak with him. Even though it was a civil hearing, Charlie Carver's father made it clear that he wasn't seeking any specific compensation for his son's death. It was important to him that Todd Kohlhepp understood what Todd had done to Charlie's family when he shot him. When Charlie's father spoke with the man who killed his son, it was an emotionally powerful moment, not out of revenge, but to make sure that Todd Kohlhepp understood the gravity of his actions and the impact they had on the family. As Scott Ponder's widow spoke, she expressed forgiveness for Todd's actions. Although her husband's death was difficult and painful, she needed to forgive Todd Kohlhepp for what he had done in order to move forward. Despite never having met his father, Scott Ponder Jr. spoke at Todd Kohlhepp's civil suit and displayed maturity beyond his years. Scott Ponder Jr. wanted to convey to the man who killed his father about the things he had taken from him and the opportunities he had missed. The young man's words were powerful and moving. He spoke of how his father's absence had impacted his life and how he had been deprived of the opportunity to build a relationship with him. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I have a playlist here of some crazy stories that I would love to share with you. So if you have some more time to spare, go check that out. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.